land speculation, we are tackling what has, I believe, become basically the most mysterious case in years. The saga at Brown University and now MIT has become absolutely scintillating, and tonight the shooting suspect at both locations has been, I guess, found dead in New Hampshire, so they say. This is a case that connects this Ivy League university in Providence, Rhode Island, a saga around engineering and fusion research. It connects back to the city of Boston and the University, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, one of the foremost engineering universities of the world, and the nation of Uzbekistan and the city of Tashkent, and its crazy, crazy, crazy metro system that we're going to dig into here on tonight's stream. We're going to try to unpack all of this and how the parts and pieces fit together. At first glance, they don't fit together, but we're going to unpack it and see what we can learn here tonight on Land Speculation live on YouTube.
Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack.
This is land that ain't just speculation. That's something we do with kinky.
Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack.
Honk, 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 honk. Where's your money?
That would be weird.
Ha, 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. Let's see. I eat bars of soap for breakfast. I love bars of soap. After midnight, things get weird.
Quack, quack. Oh no. Oh no.
Let it go. Let it go. Cock.
I like that one. Quack, 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 quack.
Come on, ducks. All right, guys, we are back here live on Land Speculation on YouTube. Thanks for joining us here. Jeanette, Quiet Castle, Arctic Cockwe are the medal winners here tonight, joined by Not Beefy Productions, Nightbot, and many others lurking around the world. Pop a hello in the chat if you wouldn't mind, and drop a like and a subscribe on the video if you wouldn't mind. Those likes help us out with YouTube. The subscribes help you guys know when we are on. Check our description, as always, for the links to our Discord and our Duck Fund. The Discord, of course, is our 24/7 chat platform, as always, and the Duck Fund is our PayPal link if you want to support the stream. Always appreciate the contributions. No, it's not a PayPal link anymore. It's the Buy Me a Coffee link. I thought I had it, but we're still tripping up on that one. So we're gonna get it right eventually. It is the Buy Me a Coffee link, and apparently we have super chats going now here on the stream. Well, we're gotta find out here. No obligations there, but and we'll try to. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. This is all like a work in progress here on Land Speculation on YouTube. We are winging it as we go along, and doing the very best we can. All right, we'll take a look at this snowy day there, because I'm not that fond of this wintry stuff. And so we're going to try to like make it through. Of course, we got the holidays next week. In the meantime, though, there is lots of interesting, odd stuff in the news. People seem to keep murmuring about a potential conflict with Venezuela and things like that. And I don't know, there's a whole thing about the plaques that the White House has now put up about the last two presidents that are a little bit unflattering. We're going to maybe talk a little bit about that at the very end. But man, I don't know if you guys have been following this saga around this case Brown and MIT. And maybe you're looking at it and you're like, you know what, these East Coast universities, who cares? That's just a bunch of stuff. Like none of the regular people in this country care. This case you should care about. This case you should care. Like it is fascinating exactly what is going on here in Brown and MIT. And I guess tonight, the unresolved saga of this case in which the killer who had done I guess allegedly committed the fatal shooting of two students and wounding of 9 others at Brown University last weekend was finally discovered and was found dead, of all places, in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire, which is pretty crazy. And how on earth did they piece the pieces together in order to unearth this individual there? That's pretty crazy. But somehow police work is always pretty incredible. Just when you think there are limitations to modern technology, police work gets it done. And how on earth did they manage to make this happen? So let's see. So here's how this all went down, just a little bit piece by piece. Again, this apparently started and ended in the city of Salem, New Hampshire. And I don't know if anybody has ever been to the city of Salem, New Hampshire, but I don't know that I have. I've been to the city of Salem, Rhode Island, but I have not been to the city of Salem, New Hampshire. I've been to the city of Salem, Massachusetts, not to the city of Salem in the state of in the state of New Hampshire, which is that's kind of a new one to me. This is okay. There we go. We got the city of Salem, New Hampshire, pulling up here. So I've never been there. It's not a big city. What I have discovered, though, is at the periphery of the city, they do have lots and lots of storage units. You can find them in and around the city, little self-storage units. And this guy, I guess, had rented one. There we go. There's one. There's a self-storage complex there in the city of Salem, New Hampshire. So that was this guy's first step, apparently, was renting a self-storage unit, and I don't believe it is public which one, so I can't say for certain which one it might be. But that is where this all began, and from there, he made his way to, I guess, so they're saying, the city of Boston, where he had rented a hotel, and in the city of Boston, he, I guess, spent 4 or 5 nights at a hotel. We don't know if he still had the room by the time this all went down, or how much the hotel room may have had to do with this actual saga. But from Boston, which is just a little bit up the road from Providence, he traveled down to Brown University, which is in Providence, and he went to this engineering building, and we did a little tour of Brown University on a video we posted last Sunday, and we talked a little bit about some of the things that were ongoing around the engineering quad at Brown, which is where this all happened, when he opened fire and killed, allegedly, 2 students and allegedly wounded 9 others. The 2 students he allegedly killed were pretty young. They were, I believe, a freshman and a sophomore. One, I think, was from Alabama, and the other was from the nation of Uzbekistan, which is a little bit curious because this alleged individual who allegedly perpetrated this stuff was also from the nation of Uzbekistan. So after going to Brown University, he apparently got back in his car, changed out his license plate, and allegedly traveled back up to the city of Boston. And a stone's throw over the Charles River from the city of Boston is the city of Cambridge. And in the city of Cambridge, of course, are the famous universities of Harvard and MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And the the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the famous MIT, is where earlier this week, to very little fanfare, because at the time we didn't know the two things were connected, this shooter allegedly went to the home of the director of one of MIT's most prestigious and most significant research labs, a fusion lab that was trying to create the future of fusion energy, and in his home, apparently, allegedly killed this professor, Nuno F.G. Loureiro, who was part of the MIT Nuclear Science and Engineering and Physics Department, and again, the head of the school's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. And at the time, again, we had no idea these two things had anything to do with one another. It was awfully mysterious. Sometimes this happens in academic, high-profile research labs. You end up with these mysterious cases in which somebody gets killed. But who would kill this guy? This guy was 47, 48 years old. He was a really hotshot young professor, still pretty young by professor standards, doing all kinds of crazy research that was destined to change the world for the better, potentially put the world on a positive footing in which maybe, just maybe, the world would be able to invent this and perfect this crazy technology which had the power to transition America from a fossil fuel economy into something that would be powered by permanently renewable energy. Like, literally, like a technology type that would change the world forever for the better. And this guy was, like, killed in his home, seemingly at random. What a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. And then somehow they managed to piece the pieces together and then connect the dots between these two shootings. Because after he went and he killed the professor at MIT, he went back to the city of Salem, New Hampshire, where he holed up in his storage unit that he had rented from before, in which he still, I guess, had. And he, I guess, lived there for a few days. He was using a phone that for some reason was not easily trackable. And eventually, allegedly, I guess, took his own life. And then somehow they put the pieces together and managed to find the guy buried in the storage unit. I don't know if this is not the storage unit. This is a stock photo from the internet showing a storage unit. Do you guys have storage units? I have never actually owned a storage unit, like the kind of storage units you find at the side of the highway. But apparently people do, and I can only imagine the kinds of crazy and nefarious things you would uncover if you actually got to go through all these storage units that sit across the country. They are kind of a crazy thing. And they're not particularly expensive, I guess, to hold. I don't know, do you get rats? Do you get like mice, rats, roaches in a storage unit? Or does it all just kind of, are they pretty secure? I wouldn't imagine they are of the greatest construction quality or of the greatest climate control. And I wonder what kinds of individuals you run into at the old storage unit banks that sit by the side of the road. And sometimes you find dead bodies, allegedly, which is apparently what happened here. And this case all raises so many questions. What do these things have to do with each other? What is the relationship between this guy, who emigrated from the nation of Uzbekistan, long time ago, emigrated from the nation of Uzbekistan, who studied at a university in Spain, who studied at Brown University, but 25 years ago, Brown University today, including a bunch of people who had nothing to do with him, MIT, at which he never studied, the city of Salem, New Hampshire, to which he seemingly had no other ties, and the nation of Uzbekistan, from which he came. What on earth is going on? All right. And how on earth how do they find this guy? Like, you think like, man, I guess you invariably, you leave behind little bits and pieces of each other. And he was caught on many different security cameras, I guess, across Brown University and the surrounding areas in Providence, Rhode Island there. I saw somebody in the chat was referencing the notion that at Brown University, maybe they had turned off some of the security cameras to prevent ICE, the big bad ICE, from uncovering people that may be doing nefarious things at Brown University. But somehow, they took enough pictures of the guy and were able to ID the guy. And all the pieces of the police work have not come out and presumably may not come out because the police probably don't want to give away all their tactics. But somehow this guy, maybe it was his car, maybe it was the hotel room. I believe he rented the storage unit in his own name, but it still doesn't reveal exactly how maybe they uncovered that this was the storage unit of the person who did this. It is awfully, awfully confusing. And it does raise some questions, like when you think about it. Over the course of the last several years, while people have been paranoid about seemingly everything the government does, one of the things that seems to have slid very much under the radar is, much as we talk about China developing this kind of national police state in which they're able to observe and docu various credit points within the nation's social credit system, the U.S. too has been putting together an image database, at least allegedly, of an awful lot of biometric data about American citizens. And I have talked to people that work at these various federal agencies, and they will talk about the fact that when you work at a federal agency, or when you work at those agencies, you start to realize that the government has the ability to do things, to see things, and to know things about individual citizens that you would not imagine the technology around. And I don't know how much of that is true and how much of that is an exaggeration, but every day we look out at the FBI headquarters building here in Washington, D.C., and you wonder what exactly is going on there and what kinds of tools they have and what kinds of nefarious operations may or may not be happening there and at the CIA and within other organizations. These days, every time you go to the airport, they take a picture of you. Every time you go through the TSA, they take another picture of you. And they say those pictures are deleted, but I don't know about that. And every time you leave the airport, they take another picture of you to grant you exit out of the airport. And somehow they do that biometrically, by IDing exactly who you are and whether you are tied to a person that checked in at another airport. Deep behind our individual knowledge, the government has been compiling a way to ID and track us in ways that people wouldn't believe, and I bet a lot of people in this country probably would not be particularly, happy about or confident in. America, a nation of obsessive privacy hawks, is actually not all that private these days. In fact, it's probably less private than it has ever been before. The interconnectedness of police forces is more interconnected than it has ever been before. The era in which you could just get away with stuff, in which people could do nefarious things, the 1970s era of notorious serial killers operating left and right all over the country, 30 at a time, and nobody seemed to be able to figure out who they were or what they were doing or where they had gone, seems to have long since closed. It took them a week in this case, and they eventually did find this guy. Raises a lot of questions about just exactly how the government is going about IDing people. It also introduces a pretty interesting phenomenon, which is the country of Uzbekistan. The country of Uzbekistan is, of course, where this individual immigrated from back in the 1990s. He was subsequently naturalized, despite having dropped out of his engineering program, allegedly. And I don't know how exactly that works. I don't know the full history of his visa process, but I have dealt with enough people who have had to go through the visa process in order to study here and then work here subsequently after their education. And I have seen so many people struggle to be able to get the credentials to be able to continue working in this country, that it is rather amazing that someone who was seemingly unemployed, at least for portions of that 25 years, who had dropped out of university, managed to somehow stay in the United States and naturalize into the United States, and then operate freely within the United States. A lot of questions there. But certainly the country of Uzbekistan, from which he came and from which one of the victims at Brown University had come, is a pretty mysterious place, I think, to most Americans. I would say a lot of Americans don't seem to know a lot about Uzbekistan. I don't know if you looked at this picture, would you have been able to ID this picture as being of Uzbekistan? Do you know where Uzbekistan even is in the world? Could you tell me anything about Uzbekistan? Could I tell you anything about Uzbekistan? Apparently, Uzbekistan sits up there near the Caspian Sea. It is north of the nation of Iran. It is north of the nation of Afghanistan. It actually shares a border up there, very close to the famous Tora Bora Mountains, which were a big focal point of the hunt for bin Laden back during prior to Operation Iraqi Freedom, the Afghanistan War, back at the very end of 2001, when America was bombing the smithereens out of the Tora Bora Mountains because we thought Osama bin Laden was holed up in those mountains. Very close to that. Very close to the nation of Turkmenistan, a nation I bet a lot of Americans don't also know a lot about. Very close to the nation of Tajikistan, yet another nation I bet Americans don't particularly know a lot about. Very close to the nation of Kyrgyzstan, another nation. Like, what exactly is going on here? The nation of Uzbekistan is caught up there at the top of the world, and I don't know, how much do people really, do people really have any idea what the deal with the nation of Uzbekistan is? We'll pull this down, do a little bit of modification here. We'll pull this up. We'll pull this up a little. Okay, there we go. We're going to crop our window the right way, and then we're going to do a little bit of a journey here. We'll zoom out here from our storage unit here in Salem, New Hampshire. We'll go back to the 2D here. See if we can get ourselves back oriented here. So Salem, New Hampshire, they're somewhat proximate to the city of Boston, which sits down here. We got to jump all the way over the Atlantic Ocean here, across the world, over across Europe. There's Spain, there's France, there's Italy, there's Germany. We go across Eastern Europe, Chechnya, Slovakia, Romania, Ukraine. We make our way across the world. We get ourselves over here to the Middle East, across the Caspian Sea to the nation of Uzbekistan. And we find in Uzbekistan, way over in eastern Uzbekistan, near the nation of Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, is the city of Tashkent, which is the capital city of this nation of 38 million or so people, the nation of Uzbekistan. Tashkent is a surprisingly big and interesting city. I was poking around it a little bit in advance of this stream, trying to figure out what on earth is going on here. It is a city of mosques. It is a city of apparently very, very bad air quality. It is home to this pretty cool place, which I discovered, which is the Ice City. It's apparently an amusement park designed around like indoor skiing and indoor ski hills, which seems pretty darn fun. And I don't know, this woolly mammoth guy, some penguins, and this seems like this would be awfully fun and kind of odd in like a mountain desert environment like this. But sometimes you find cool stuff like that. You go to random cities around the world. Other than that, I think a lot of the tourist attractions are mosques, because the nation of Uzbekistan is an overwhelmingly Muslim nation, or at least I believe majority Muslim nation. But it's very, very, very quiet. It was part of the old Soviet Union. It was a very, very, very like locked down, close to the vest country. Part of the reason you never hear about it is because they were very, very, very private about their affairs as a nation for a long time. And only in the last 5 or 10 years has the nation of Uzbekistan started to actually open up at all. And I guess they have been sending researchers to the United States to study pretty intense electrical and various other kinds of engineering and apparently engineering that delves heavily into the fusion sphere. So this is the origin point of both the guy that did this, and I guess at least one of the people that he allegedly offed as part of his journey here. There's another image of the city of Tashkent. I guess it has this tower thing in it that looks like a radio tower. It does look like a lot of park space, but apparently still, these old Soviet automobiles, which still occupy many of the streets there, produce a lot of pollution. And so it's like, if you have asthma or something like that, it's not a very good city for you. Now, as I was digging along, one of the things I uncovered is the city of Tashkent, of all cities, has an amazing, amazing network of underground metro systems. This city of Tashkent in the country of Uzbekistan has the most amazing metro system in the world. It has a metro system that was built by the Soviets starting in the 1970s, inaugurated 1977, that has some of the most beautiful metro tunnels, maybe the most beautiful metro station tunnels of any metro system anywhere in the world. It is amazing that a country that is this broadly private and unprosperous was able to build a metro that looks like this, with so many hugely ornate tunnels that blend Soviet and Islamic imagery, metro tunnels that I guess were built to double as bomb shelters in the event of some kind of nuclear explosion, metro tunnels that have turned the edifice of waiting for your transit train, and you can see the transit trains are not even particularly modern transit trains, into an absolute work of art. What the city may be lacking on the surface, it certainly makes up for in the most incredible series of underground tunnels that you could possibly imagine. I'm a stickler for interesting tunnels. You can see communistic Soviet imagery here of everybody holding up the interests of the state together is part of the language and the visual, interest of this metro system in Tashkent. It has just incredible degrees of artistry and stonework. And each one is different. That's the amazing thing, is that they didn't just copy and paste. And frankly, compared to America's public transit systems, they have turned the edifice of public transit into an absolute gallery piece of incredibly, incredibly beautiful underground stations that are all ornately decorated and must have cost an absolute fortune for the Soviets to build. So at the same time that people were starving across the Soviet Union, especially in places like Uzbekistan, they were able to build this incredible, incredible network of underground metro stations. And it certainly brings into question the way that the Soviets prioritized how they were investing in people. Because at the same time you could ride the most ornate underground subway tunnels in the world on a subway train that probably hadn't been updated in decades, you couldn't usually afford to buy a car, and many, many people couldn't find food in the grocery store. And so now this country that we know nothing about, Uzbekistan, is suddenly thrust into the national spotlight. And then there is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I will dig into here the Massachusetts Technology in just a second. Before we do that, though, I'm going to run an ad, and then I'm going to get to some of your comments. So fill in your comments here. I need a number. If anybody wouldn't mind dropping in a number 1 through 15 here in the chat. Let me know. This case is worthy of a Sherlock Holmes case, says Jerry Carter. Yes, absolutely. This is a Sherlock Holmes case, and we're going to unpack a little bit more about the motive, how MIT plays into this here. That says number 1. We're going to do ad number 1 here. We'll be right back here on land speculation.
Help! Help! Pineapple! This is Jeanette. We need likes on this stream to help it get recommended to more people. While you are there, you can help yourself find us again by subscribing to Land Speculation's channel. You can help those around you by setting the bell to all and making sure it notifies loudly. That way, I don't need to use the safe word again.
All right, guys, we are back on land speculation. Man, I'm juggling so many different threads of videos and audios and windows and things like that. It is tough to keep them all sorted. That was moderator extraordinaire Jeanette. She does speak. She does speak, Spyman. And she speaks eloquently, and, well, we certainly appreciate the work all of our mods do here. But where would we be without the work of our moderators? Quiet Castle, Jeanette, Bequeathius moniker. And let's see, why? Oh, okay, we have the wrong chat pulled up here. Let me try to make sure we get our chat pulled up. Okay, there we go, there we go, there we go. We got to get the chat updated, and there we go. This is you guys live. This is you guys. I know it's not. It's updating slowly. It's catching up. It's catching up with the chat. So let's dig in here. See what some of you guys have been saying here all along. It is good to see you guys. Jerry Carter, Villaginax, Spyman, Sugino 7856. Good to see you guys. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing names here. Calming the Chaos is also here in the chat. And let's see. Do we have a James Games? No James Games, maybe? Oh, there's James Games. James Games is James Gamesing here in the chat. Not Beefy Production is also with us. Good to see you guys. Thank you, Arctic, for the ducks here early on. Thank you, Nightbot, for bringing your normally energetic personality to the mix here on Land Speculation Live on YouTube. And let's see what we got here in terms of comments. Okay, more ducks here from Nightbot. I appreciate that. Let's see. I heard that Brown University turned off many cameras sometime before so that they can't use them, says Jeanette. So talking about this case here, I guess that is a murmur here that maybe the investigation was impeded in some way because Brown University didn't want ICE coming after their students. Maybe, just maybe. And let's see. Okay, we got some people making puns here in the chat. Great. Quiet Castle says it's almost like the shooter was a hitman or something. Man, we're going to find out. So we don't know the motive of the guy yet. As best I understand, we really don't know what this guy was up to. We're going to muse a little bit on maybe what we think was going on. But I do want to be sensitive because, of course, this is an investigation of a real case that involved real people losing their lives, including ultimately the shooter, I guess, taking his own life, allegedly. MIT and Brooklyn, very important to the U.S. Always had the smartest of the smart, says Villaginac. Yeah, MIT is a pretty interesting place. It is a place full of incredibly smart students. Like, you think that the rest of smart universities have smart students, but when it comes to these hardcore engineering universities, MIT, Caltech, but particularly MIT, man, you are dealing with people that are intense. You're dealing with people that are amazingly competent, that were probably used to being the smartest people in the room until they get to college and realize that everyone else there is just as smart as they are, and they invent all kinds of crazy things. Not Beefy Production says Downs like a hit from the Fossil Fuel and Nuclear Energy Department. Well, I guess one wouldn't. Well, I guess you would still fault them. But yeah, like if this fusion lab at MIT was really on the crux of inventing nuclear fusion, that's a pretty amazing invention for humankind. And so I guess if you were, and it would render essentially the whole nature of the fossil fuel industry obsolete if they were able to be successful. So I suppose the fossil fuel industry, you would expect them to be a little bit hostile toward fusion energy. Wouldn't it be nice if we all just supported the best interests of humankind together? There's a reason they tell you not to do your own research. It fixes stuff and costs them future business. All right, all right. Let's scroll our way down here. Yep, so we were talking about the tools of the FBI, CIA, NSA, etc. in order to find things out about American citizens, and really anybody who's in the country, but particularly American citizens. It's getting awfully deep. The technology is awfully intense. All right, scrolling right along, some of the things that you guys are talking about here in the chat. We gotta like, I'm trying to read like all of this all in one, and all in it's like drinking from a really, really large glass of water, and trying to not choke on it as we go along. Quiet Castle wants to live in Landukistan. That is not a real country, believe it or not. It should be, but it is not yet a real country. Maybe we could buy an island in the Caribbean and turn Landukistan into a real country. Spyman gave us a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Arctic Cockwe, when it doesn't make sense, I assume a certain country did it somehow, and then YouTube stops working. Well, we're going to try to keep things on the up and up here on our video. Only one of the victims was from Uzbekistan, says Sujino. Yes, one of the two. I believe the other one was from Alabama. And then, of course, there's this professor at MIT. They were young undergrads, though. There was no way this guy would have known those undergrads. So it seems like he was perhaps picking people somewhat at random in a location that he knew well, because he, of course, knew the location more than he knew any of the individual people. The TSA electronics scanner copies all of your electronics. It's not an X-ray, says Arctic Cockwe. I don't know if that's true or not, but that would be a pretty crazy scanner if that was in fact the case. When you're slipping your bag through the TSA tunnel, it's like making a copy of your entire phone and your entire laptop. Wow. Ben Carson couldn't name the president of Uzbekistan. Was that the line about Uzbekistan? He was trying to say, like, of course nobody knows the president of Uzbekistan. They don't matter. Yeah, I don't know the president of Uzbekistan either. User says you must fight bear for Soviet citizenship. That's what I've heard, is in order to become a citizen of the Soviet Union, you need to wrestle a bear with your bare hands, and if you can survive for 3 minutes, they will grant you citizenship. Brown bear, not one of those tame little black bears you discover on your camping trip to the North Woods in Minnesota, but like a big, scary grizzly bear. Do they have grizzly bears in Russia? I don't know. All right. All right, all right. We will figure this out. How did they know to track him to a certain storage unit? Yeah, that is the big question. That is the big question. And, you know, again, you leave behind a paper trail. So we're assuming they didn't ID him per se just from the photographs. But we know he had a car. He was using fake license plates, we think, allegedly, for the car. We know he had a hotel room. We know he had probably some kind of bank cards. We had a phone. He had this storage unit. But how did they find any of these pieces? How did they piece it together? That is the question. All right. So we're going to dig back into the story here. We're going to pick up the story here at MIT. MIT, the university here in Boston. There's its campus. But one of the weird things about MIT is rather than names, all of the buildings have numbers. You go to like building 42 and building 15. It's a place for engineering nerds. And I say that in the most affectionate way possible, because these are incredibly talented people that are solving the kinds of challenges that they're solving the kinds of challenges that you know, like the world otherwise probably can't solve. There was news today about Donald Trump trying to end American investments in Chinese technology companies. Well, America is competing against Chinese technology companies, and a lot of the most innovative research that's doing that is coming out of places like MIT. It is, in some ways, kind of a dreary university. If there's one thing MIT has that maybe Uzbekistan shares, it is the notion of lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of subway tunnels. But in MIT, they aren't subway tunnels. They're just pedestrian tunnels. But everything at MIT is connected with crazy underground tunnels. Their tunnels are not quite as ornate as the tunnels in the Uzbekistan metro. But they are very, very interesting. And I would have to find the map of all the underground tunnels, but there's a lot of crazy stuff that's happening there at MIT. Underground, this is a wind tunnel where they're doing some kind of crazy research with wind tunnels. And the thing about MIT is when you try to understand some of the research that's happening there, it's like really, really hard to even dissect what the hell is going on. To understand like what's happening at the Lincoln Laboratory for Defense Sensing and AI, the Media Lab, which looks at human technology interfaces and experiential design, the Plasma Science and Fusion Center, which is the lab that this deceased professor was leading, CSAIL, the Computer Science and AI Lab, or the Cook Institute for Cancer and Bioengineering. These labs often operate like mini cities, with industry, government, and academia blended together. And many of the faculty that operate these labs spin off companies. They are constantly spinning off companies that compete with larger companies. Students expect to commercialize their ideas and change the world rapidly. Venture capital is normalized, not stigmatized within these labs, and failure is treated merely as data within labs at MIT. This is the Plasma Fusion Lab this professor was leading. And man, if we were able to get fusion energy, the potential of fusion energy promises virtually limitless carbon-free, safe, and abundant baseload power by mimicking the sun, using easily accessible fuels like seawater, producing minimal, long-lived radioactive waste, and offering huge economic benefits by powering heavy industry and data centers. While significant engineering challenges remain, recent breakthroughs suggest commercial viability could emerge in the coming decades, largely fueled by labs like this one at MIT, potentially reshaping global energy, economics, and geopolitics. Fusion energy is like, it's that gold mine of potential energy. It's clean and sustainable. It's abundant, produces massive amounts of energy, would replace fossil fuels. It's safe. It produces an enormous amount of energy, making energy possibly like basically infinite, and it could basically like transform the economy of the world. So this is a little description of what would happen if the world was powered by fusion energy. A world powered by fusion energy would be defined by abundant, reliable, carbon-free electricity that runs continuously without reliance on weather, scarce fuels, or geopolitically fragile supply chains, allowing societies to electrify transportation, heating, industry, and water systems at scale while dramatically reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It would stabilize power grids, lower long-term energy costs, diminish the strategic importance of oil and gas, enable cleaner and denser cities, support energy-intensive needs like desalination and advanced manufacturing, and do so with far lower safety and waste risks than traditional nuclear power, making energy a quiet, dependable background utility rather than a persistent economic, political, and environmental constraint. It really, I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but it makes me angry. It makes me angry in a way that someone would take out the person that is at the leading edge of trying to create this stuff. We have so many people that are addled out in this country, that are lost on social media making TikToks, doing dances that have the attention span of a fly. We have people on drugs, we have people on alcohol, we have people aspiring to be influencers and rappers and athletes, all at the expense of the academic culture of this country. We have people across this country who have lost the plot. We have people raising kids not to be great thinkers, great researchers, great inventors. We have people who don't even care about their kids. And we have so many young people that have no particular ambition to do anything of consequence in the world. And the world faces real situations and real challenges. And here we have somebody like one of the very best and the brightest who had ventured across the world and built something like this at MIT to do this amazing research that could change the world and better everything for all of us. You invent fusion energy, you might create a world in which nobody has to work anymore. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's the kind of world that fusion energy represents, is the kind of world in which we solve basically all of humanity's challenges, the things that plague the planet, that plague people. And the notion that someone would, over some kind of motive, take this individual out. It makes me angry, and it further makes me angry that there are people out there treating ordinary American citizens because of their politics or because, like, there are people out there that said Charlie Kirk was like the worst person that had lived in the last 100 years, was the only person whose death it was worth celebrating. And here we have somebody that for some reason took out somebody that was literally trying to change the world, who was young and at the peak of their career. And for what? And for what? So what really was going on here? How do you connect the dots between all these things? You got Spain, you got Portugal, you got Uzbekistan, you've got MIT, you've got Brown. How do these things fit together? What on earth could be the motive of this guy? We don't know. We don't know. We are just beginning to learn little bits and pieces about this guy. A lot of photos of him. Various security cameras. The guy was 48 years old. Usually, when you hear about this kind of thing, you hear about some confused youngster, somebody between like 18 and 24, who has all kinds of like hormones raging and doesn't know what to do with their angst about the world. This guy was 48. He should know better. I mean, everybody should know better. But particularly at 48, you should know better. And yet he did this anyway. And somewhere in this, there is some contrast between this individual that did this, that allegedly did this, and this MIT professor he took out and the other students he took out, but particularly the two of them, because what we know about the two of them is that they were not strangers to each other. Maybe they were strangers today, but they were not strangers in the past, because we know they had crossed paths at this University of Science and Technology in Spain back some 20, 25, 30 years ago. They studied perhaps as young researchers in Spain briefly together. They are approximately the same age. Our alleged killer, we know, had attempted to study some of the same things our researcher on the right had studied. But apparently our killer wasn't able to cut it, or at least, for whatever reason, allegedly, dropped out of Brown, where he was studying in the engineering department. Where is our professor, who was also studying engineering and also started at the bottom, going up through the young engineering labs, working their way up through the system, and eventually making it to becoming a professor at MIT, and then becoming such a potent professor doing fusion research at MIT, they were able to, at such a young age, head MIT's supposedly largest lab of labs. These two people could not be further apart in their life outcomes. This is the university, supposedly, they had each studied at together in Spain. We don't know anything about their relationship at this university in Spain. But presumably, you would have to think, I mean, I don't want to assume anything, but it might be logical to assume, if we were making assumptions, that there might be some connection between the fact that these two had studied together and then perhaps went on entirely different life directions. One in the direction of enormous success, doing groundbreaking, crazy research, unprecedented research, research that is inventing entire new fields, and the other, a dropout. We've heard he was maybe living in Miami for part of his life. The other, who maybe hadn't really achieved all of the dreams that he had set out to achieve, and who maybe, just maybe, was harboring some bitterness, some resentment toward those who were more successful with the same background than he was. And without venturing into motives, one might assume that watching the people you had studied with become enormous successes may have contributed, in part perhaps, to a bit of personal resentment. And it is a reminder on some level. We live in a world where we frame everything through the lens of politics. We frame everything through the lens of these culture war issues that we confront collectively in society. We've gotten so kind of addled out by the saga of Charlie Kirk, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump the summer a year ago, the recent killing of Rob Reinert, these various, I mean, you go on like any social media these days, and the kinds of things that you, these kinds of things like that are driven by politics first and foremost. We frame everything through politics. I've been seeing people immediately try to talk about this instant through the lens of politics. When we covered this last Sunday, one of the very first things that we said, at least that I said, was that I thought this was something that was probably about a personal grudge. That's just sort of how it felt to me. And we're sitting here speculating. Sitting here speculating about things we don't know that much about. Was this guy some kind of hired hitman for some nefarious political thing? Or was this just the kind of case that comprises most cases? Most cases are about personal grudges, things that happen in people's individual lives, those individuals that get under your skin and that you can't let go for years and years and years and years. That ex who dumped you, that competitor you feel slighted you, that person you feel ripped off your work. There's so many grand old movies and books about composers. The composer that had written the grand opus, and then the underling who had stolen the grand opus and then claimed credit for it, and how it affected both of their lives in disparate directions. Was this a case merely of that classic old fatal jealousy syndrome? The saga as old as time. The kind of jealousy that began with the story of Cain and Abel, in which two brothers pitted against each other. One succeeded, one failed, one bitter at the other, leading to dastardly consequences as somebody unable to rein in their sense of jealousy. As God told Cain, there is sin lurking in your midst, and it is up to you to rein it in and to not let it control you. You may hate, you may despise, you may be bitter, you may be jealous of others, and yet you have to swallow that. It's one of the most difficult lessons of the Bible. You let the cosmic universe, you let God, you let heaven, you let karma decide the ultimate fate of who wins and who loses. And no matter how far you feel behind in life, and no matter how much you may feel slighted in the moment, it is not up to you to determine the fate of another. It is only up to you to determine what you do with your own individual life. And we live in a society today that incentivizes the quick return. We live in a society today that incentivizes people the shortest path from A to B, the quick dopamine hit, rather than putting in the hard, long work of long-form hobbies. So you put in a certain number of hours, you become one of the foremost world experts in any subject. But you have to put in the time and the grit and the energy. And what a shame. What a shame. We sort of lost the idea that fail once. It is but a mistake. It is but an obstacle. It is a path on the road to success. It's one of the consequences of our quick hit dopamine culture. Too many people feel like they have no potential, despite having every resource in front of them in the world. And again, the motive on this could be completely different. But maybe, just maybe, that's what's going on here. In the meantime, Donald Trump cracking down on investments in Chinese tech companies, we talked about that. Same time, MIT has lost one of its leading researchers due to this dastardly crime. The US is trying to clamp down on China from doing research that could be used to potentially harm the US. It's in the news today. Pretty consequential. We get lured in by the sexy stories. That's a pretty consequential one too. The impacts on research, the impacts on geopolitical battles amongst each other. And then I was reading about this. James Madison University, which seemingly overnight has created a football powerhouse that came from a lower division and is now a very good Division I football powerhouse. Apparently, because the state of Virginia law permits it, is charging its ordinary students some $3,000 to $4,000 a year of their tuition dollars explicitly to go toward the football program and the athletic department. It rankles me as a football fan. It rankles me as somebody that cares about our society even more. You have students in rural Virginia that are trying to go to college to raise themselves out of rural poverty and be the first in their family to go to college, who are poor and who can probably barely afford it, who are now being charged an astronomical sum of money each year, some $12,000 plus over the course of their time at JMU, all to fund JMU's ability to fund a football program that can compete for the college football playoff. If ever there were a story that demonstrates just how ass backwards our priorities are when it comes to what we are trying to incentivize in our society, it's this one. And this went under the radar this week that this came out. What we need is not more football in America. There seems to be an insatiable appetite and insatiable money for football. And at the same time, we're taking money from the future MIT researchers to fund the football, rather than using the football resources to fund the future MIT resources. And that is a backwards state of affairs. All right. There are a couple other stories I may want to touch on here, which we may get to. Okay. Let's see. Let me pull back up some more of your comments here, and let's hope they will update here. Pop back. Where did we left off? I have no idea where we left off. Okay, but I can probably find. Okay, so number one, we did add number one here before. All right, all right. Okay, okay. Scrolling along here. 1,200 cameras, and they didn't have any of the shooter at Brown University, says Quiet Castle. MIT invented many computer languages, must respect given, that's for sure. How did a foreign national purchase an automatic rifle? And yet nobody asks why Bigfoot doesn't make any effort to cover his privates. One of the things that I think baffles me is why we have so many sports mascots that wear a shirt and no pants. It seems like the reverse, like you would want to wear pants and no shirt. You can kind of get away with that. You know, you got the no shirt, no shoes, no service places. They want you to wear a shirt, but I think you can walk around in public without having a shirt on. You usually can't walk around in public without having pants on. But if you're a mascot, you can get away with it. So Gina went to engineering school, but it was more for practicing engineers, not theoretical. Heyland, what do you think about Trump rescheduling pot? As in he reclassified it in some way? I have no idea. I have no idea what that means. You're going to have to fill me in on more about what Donald Trump said about pot. I know Donald Trump doesn't do pot. Donald Trump is as clean as a whistle. Nightbot, thanks for the 4 ducks there. Okay, Norman Patterson, thanks for stopping by here. Has Lance talked AI yet? AI. What do I say about AI? I think AI is very potent. It has a lot of potential. I don't really understand how it works. I think it's scary that nobody seems to really know how AI works. But it certainly has a lot of potential. I don't know where it leads. It's kind of scary. Plasma fusion energy is Tesla reborn. Okay. Saying MIT fusion energy research is connected to the Brown University incident. Well, I mean, clearly it somehow is connected. The same guy did both of them. At least that's what they're telling us. I mean, I can't independently corroborate it. We were promised fusion 10 years ago in the 80s, says Norman. Well, someday we will have it. All right. We need plasma fusion for more data centers, for more TikTok. That's true. We would just build data centers. If we had infinite energy, we're just going to build more data centers so we can have more TikTok. That's true. But, you know, if like TikTok is what people really want, if that's what the brain really craves, I guess it'd be nice if we could just sit there and zombie out our brains on TikTok all day, every day, without having to go to work. Charlie Kirk was trying to change the world too. Yeah, he was. Kinda. Imagine visiting the moon and the craters are filled with garbage. Who's garbage? Probably takes a pretty strong windstorm once some garbage is in a crater for the garbage to blow out of the crater. I guess there was a time in America when people would drive around and you just throw garbage out the windows of your car. They stayed together in Portugal, not Spain. Yeah, Sugino, I think you've brought up a couple of good facts here. That the killer was actually from Portugal. He was the victim from Uzbekistan, not the shooter. Good point. We're often scrambling on these shows. You guys can tell sometimes we're racing to pull together content, storylines. Let's see. Oh, no, I lost. It jumped around. MAGA was talking so much trash about this case was completely wrong. They forced Brown to take down a student's page from their website. I am so darn tired of people putting a political lens on every frickin' thing that happens, whether or not the thing's political or not. We have so many people that are so damn addicted to politics in this country that see everything through the lens of politics. They cannot listen to one story or have one conversation without interjecting that crap. There are people like that on both sides. And I'm so darn tired of the speculation that is like innately tied to politics. And I clench up because I like to live in a world where politics does not come up all the time. I like to go through one conversation, one meeting. The world is so much more interesting than politics. It is so much more interesting than especially American politics. This red, blue, Trump, right, left, blue state, red state. It's not even interesting politics. The world has so many more interesting things than that. And man, I don't know what social media has done to people. People are so damn addicted to this stuff. Makes conversations with people almost impossible. My great loathing is not for one side or the other right now. It is for the mere nature of American politics. Jerry Carter. Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of sports knowledge. I have a lot of sports knowledge jostling around my brain. Is that useful? I'm torn when it comes to sports. I'm torn when it comes to sports because, on the one hand, it is completely useless. It literally does not matter. And on the other hand, we've seen what happens when sports goes away. 2020 is what happened when sports went away. Every culture, in the same way that every culture throughout history has had religion, every culture needs sports or some kind of outlet for our collective, that animalistic tribal bloodlust that is deeply rooted in our DNA. Because in order to become the societies that we have today, we somehow needed to fight each other and fight the saber-toothed tiger for thousands of years. It's deep within us. And so we need an outlet for it. Sports does give us that. So on the one hand, am I wasting all of my brain space by remembering all of this information about the history of baseball? Does getting really invested in football results mean something good or something bad about my psyche? Is that really just something that I need? Do I need to? I don't enjoy watching football. I find football actually extremely unpleasant to watch. There is nothing more unpleasant that I do in my life than endure those 3 to 4 hour windows on Saturdays when I desperately try to mind will the time to pass until the game can be over and I can just know the result. I hate it. I hate following sports, and yet it is something almost like I need it. There's something deeply embedded there, and I don't know, I could sit and talk to a therapist for hours about that. Why do we get so darn invested in sports? Seemingly rational beings that know this stuff doesn't matter, and yet we get deeply invested in it. So I don't know. Maybe I need to know who won the '83 Super Bowl. And since I don't care that much about the NFL, I don't actually know who won the '83 Super Bowl. If you do, drop it in the chat. I find the NFL to be the worst. No, the NBA is pretty horrible. The NBA is the worst sports league. Let's be real. The NBA is terrible. But the NFL is not particularly entertaining. I could probably tell you most of the Super Bowl winners, but not all. I can tell you all the World Series winners. Quiet Castle says, I think politics became involved in every little facet of our lives since about the mid 2000s. I think it was the rise of social media and the outrage, the dopamine hit culture. Like, I think a lot of people live extremely boring lives. Like, you get somebody's like living in an apartment complex. They're working a retail job, and the most exciting thing about their sort of living environment is that there's like a Trader Joe's and a gym that they go to every day. And they go to Starbucks and they get a matcha latte. And they're just pining for like something that gives them like, that taps into their soul. And politics seems to be the thing that people have found that taps into their soul. And so it seems to be the deepest live wire that taps into people's competitive psyches, the sense of threat. Spend time on the various socials, and you will see people that are just like, goodness gracious. I mean, there are people that have taken politics so deeply to heart that they have completely disassociated from it, disassociated from people of the opposite political party entirely, which is like, it's insane to me. I mean, it is like, it is a sickness. It is a profound sickness in our country. I agree with Spyman that the political divide is tearing the country apart, and people are being forced further and further into these echo chambers. And like, politics becoming someone's personality is a way to make a personality profoundly uninteresting. Chai tea latte is, when I go to Starbucks, I get a black coffee. Starbucks does very good hot chocolate, by the way. Like, of all the hot chocolates, like, Starbucks does about the best. AI is very good for conversation sometimes. Pete's black coffee? Oh boy. Oh boy. So I used to work in an office environment where they would have 3 different brands of coffee. And somebody, I presume the office manager, would go and make coffee in the coffee maker whenever the coffee maker would run out of coffee. And they would pick at random coffee from the various coffees in the coffee drawer. One of the coffees available was Starbucks. Starbucks coffee, some people say it tastes burnt. I actually like Starbucks coffee. I think it's pretty good. It has some taste to it. And then there was like coffee from some local coffee provider that was kind of pretty bland. And then there was Pete's coffee. And when she would make Pete's coffee in the coffee machine, that was the most disgusting coffee I've ever had in my entire life. I've had bad coffee. You get like the coffee you get on the airplane, that is bad coffee. Like, you take like a domestic United Airlines flight, that is going to be some bad coffee. Sometimes I worry about like getting sick from that coffee on the airplane. You never know what's in the coffee kettle on the airplane. But man, I am baffled by your comment, Quiet Castle. Pete's coffee? I've had Pete's coffee many times in my life. That is the most disgusting coffee I have ever had, and I haven't a clue how that company is still in business. You're going to have to justify to me the contention that Pete's coffee is the best. Or is this like one of those like you go around it's like a clock. You go around you get like the more bad you get, eventually you come back around like like Betty White. You get old enough and then suddenly you're cool again. Pete's Coffee is the best. Yeah, Pete's is based out of Seattle. I will give it one more shot. I will give Pete's Coffee one more try, but I don't know. I'm not there on the Pete's Coffee right now. We will attempt to render a verdict on the Pete's Coffee. The price of coffee today is off the charts. That's true. Coffee is very, very expensive right now. And part of the problem is that coffee is heavily tariffed right now, and it is very, very hard to get domestic coffee. There's very, very little of America that is actually able to produce coffee. America is just, it's not a coffee producing country. The terrain, the climate is not very conducive to coffee. The only places in America that produce coffee are parts of California, where the regulatory and tax hurdles and just the cost of land is so high that it makes it basically impossible to produce coffee cost effectively. Hawaii produces a little bit of coffee, not usually great in quality and also very expensive. Transport from Hawaii is very expensive. And then Puerto Rico produces coffee, but not particularly well and not in particularly voluminous quantities. Most coffee comes from abroad. And most good coffee comes from abroad, and most affordable coffee comes from abroad. And therefore, when coffee is tariffed, it becomes very, very, very hard for Americans to access their coffee affordably. And that is what's happening right now. The price of coffee is through the roof, and it's a mess. It's a mess, and everybody's overpaying for coffee. Price of eggs has come down this year. Pete's is based out of Berkeley. I know, I mean, it's a national brand. It's a famous national brand. I assumed it was Seattle. Seems like all the coffee brands are Seattle. Maybe you're getting fresher Pete's in California. Maybe the Pete's that's getting shipped around the country is like the stale old Pete's. I look at an egg amazed at the engineering of them, says Norman Patterson. Plus, they contain all the protein you need. Amazing. I look at an egg, and I kind of marvel at the fact that I have put something by the dozen in my refrigerator that literally came out of a chicken's butt. They make all kinds of special tools to clean the fecal matter off of eggs after they come out of the cloaca. I mean, I get it's one of those things about we live in such a sanitized version of the world. We eat meat without thinking anything about the notion that meat came from a frickin' animal. I eat eggs daily, says Jeanette, but was buying local when the stores went too high. You could just buy a chicken or whatever animal from which you want eggs. I guess you could get like an ostrich if you want more bang for your bucks on the eggs. I don't know how much it costs to buy an ostrich. One of the most surprisingly tasty things I've ever had in my life was ostrich meat. Ostrich steak is really, really, really good. One of the cool things about Africa is you eat some really, really, really tasty big game meat there. And ostrich is quite tasty. See, in Africa, you get two kinds of cuisine. You get the really super overly heavily spiced cuisine. People like Ethiopian food or like Somali food. That is just like they just create extreme spices. And the purpose was that often you have food that is like not in such great condition. And like with Indian food, you need to bury it in some kind of spicing that obscures that the meat maybe isn't so good. And then the other version of African cuisine you get is just really, really, really exotic game meats, which, if served fresh and in high quality, can be really, really, really good. Duck eggs are good and huge. I bought 6 chicks. It takes 6 months till they start laying. Well, Norman, that 6 months is called the dating period. See, you have to put in the time there at the beginning of the relationship before the chicks. Oh, wait. We're talking about different chicks, aren't we? Well, the sentence probably applies in both cases. I mean, I know 6 months is kind of a long time, depending on the bird. Quiet says, I raised 2 ducks from 1 day old, so I know what you mean. Well, I am a duck, so I know what you mean. I guess that means I lay an egg. No, wait. Male ducks don't lay eggs. I was born a full adult duck. That's true. The stork brought me. I've ever seen a stork in real life. Norman's bringing us 2 ducks and 2 eggs here. Are you a wood duck or a mallard duck? Or a Pekin duck? It's interesting. I do variably represent depending on the day. I would say generally we talk mallard ducks the most here on Land Speculation. But sometimes I mean we're hanging out with the Pekin ducks here in our avatar. So I do like the Pekin ducks. Carlo was a Pekin duck, so I'm a big fan of the old Pekin. There's a nice mallard for us. Their mallards are very elegant. It's a green-headed mallard. They're very picturesque, swimming along. Ducks have to work very hard when they swim along. They glide along the surface, but those little feet are working very hard underneath the water. And you would think they would make the ducks look more elegant when they walk around. Nightbot's confused as always. Ducks always watch you close 'cause they peekin'. Quiet's competing with Nightbot here for jokes. It's almost like Nightbot's sense of humor has a little bit of Quiet Castle in it. How did Land become a duck? Sometimes the mysteries of the universe are best left unresolved. Nightbot's attempting to tell a story here that seems highly unresolved. as a story ends mid-sentence, so I won't even go there yet. Have you guys started your Christmas shopping yet? Do you guys celebrate Christmas? Is there anybody here who just abstains? Toasters were the first form of pop-up notifications. I don't know much about the history of the toaster. It'd be an interesting stream. The history of the toaster. Viral. Do you waddle when you walk? No, I run like Usain Bolt. Okay, quiet's getting ready to hang out with family. Norman has bought popcorn makers. Every year for Christmas, I do a scan of my family, and for every relative who is under the age of 12, I get them a drum set. Just because I think that's the nice thing to do. I think for young parents, maybe have like 3 kids under the age of 8, I think the best thing you could do for them is get all 3 kids a drum set for Christmas. It's one of the easiest toys out there to get. Jeanette, the Secret Santa. Air horns are also a very good gift to get young children. Whistles also good. Scissors, also good. Nuclear weapons. Those are expensive. Those are, like getting like black market nuclear weapons is very pricey. Tasers. Yeah, tasers, very good gift for young children. The commercialization of the holidays. People used to complain a lot more about the commercialization of things. That was like back in the '90s. Everyone complained about how commercialized everything was getting because we had we had so few other problems. That was like people were always lamenting how commercialized society had become. I don't know. We might be like staring at a potential socialist revolution in America. And so, should that happen, I think we will be longing for the era in which holidays in America were commercialized. All right, guys. We've probably taken this stream about as far as we can take it. Trying to go about an hour and a half here, which we have successfully done. That's not bad for a stream we started piecing together about 15 minutes before it started. Spyman, congratulations on being the winner tonight. Excellent work here, Spyman. Spyman is also the top fan here on our list of top fans On the stream, Arctic Cockwe number 2, Norman Patterson number 3, Calming the Chaos number 4, Jerry Carter 5, Villagenac number 6, Sugino number 7, Not Beefy Production number 8, User JS6GF1XY6K number 9, and James Games 1633 number 10. Excellent job, Spyman, for doing a clean sweep of the awards there. Very nice work. Guys, if you haven't remembered to drop a like or a subscribe in the video, I do appreciate the likes. Those help us out with YouTube. The subscribes help you guys know when we're on. Check the description for the link to our Duck Discord, as well as our Duck Fund, which is our the Duck Discord's our 24/7 chat platform. The Duck Fund is also available 24 hours a day. That is our Buy Me a Coffee link if you get to, well, it's already the middle of the night. If it's like 5, you go to bed now and you wake up at 5 and you're like, I just have too much money in my bank account and I want to do something with it, you can always send it to the Duck Fund, which we always appreciate. Very much appreciate the work of our mods here hanging out. Jeanette and Quiet Castle chatting it up with us here. At the end, I know James Games had popped in and maybe popped out. And Norman, Spyman, anybody else who stuck it out to the very end here, appreciate it. Appreciate the conversation. Everyone for hanging out with us here on Land Speculation on YouTube. All right, we got like lots of stuff in the coffers queued up. Don't be strangers. We will be back. This is Land. That ain't just speculation. And for now, I hope you all have a good night.